My panelists, we have Louis Aguilar. He is the Vice President and Digital Marketing Manager at Amerant Bank. And also Joe Lutz is the Manager of Enterprise Brand at Securian Financial. And you guys with us? I think we're all, I don't know if everyone's here yet. There we go. There's Joe.
Hey.
Hi, Joe. Leave me out here by myself for a second. All right, maybe I'll do a little dance. If you don't want to hear me talk money, the most I can do. Well, let's see. Up, and there we have Louis. Can you hear us, Louis? We can't hear you. Got to unmute yourself. Can you talk now? There, I think we got it. I'm not sure. Well, why don't we get going with Joe? Louis, if you want to start getting your sound going here, because obviously we're going to be talking with both of you guys. And as I introduced, we do have this new generation of consumers, and it's a younger market, and they also have different expectations. And it's important to differentiate yourself with, especially there is such a crowded space, but at the same point, you have to continue earning their trust. So how have you sort of adapted in terms of this market? And again, let's start with you, Joe.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things, and just a little bit of background on Securian Financial, we actually were founded in 1880. So adapting to change is actually something that we're pretty used to, having gone through the Great Depression, both world wars, and also the 2007 and 8 financial crisis. Has been something, just a few of the things that have we've overcome over the years. But with that, we're also still a very financial and conservative company. We actually sell, our primary business is retirement investments and insurance. And one of the things that our big business is group insurance. And so we're primarily sold through third parties, through independent advisors or agents. And with that, it had always been thought that brand wasn't really important. And also, with all of these new competitors in the marketplace and new the advances with digital technology, it became more and more apparent that we are going to need a consumer-facing brand, even though we only sell B2B. And that is mainly because of the way products are being sold. Consumers are given more choice. And if price isn't the only factor, brand plays a huge factor in determining where companies can, or where customers can trust companies, because the bigger the brand, the more trust that inherently gets associated with that just off the bat, and with a blind study for that. So back in 2018, it was determined that we really should focus on a B2, B2C brand, or consumer brand as well. And so Securian Financial since then has been diving into that and really been trying to make our consumer brand a little bit more friendly.
And now, in terms of how were you able to sort of target those people? What did you do to figure out who that audience was that you were looking for?
Yeah, obviously we didn't want to just talk to everyone because we don't have the budget to do that, first of all. I mean, we're still a mid-sized company, but we really wanted to focus in on who we should be talking to for a lot of reasons, for making sure who is most likely to work with us, but also make sure that the current customers we have are the ones that we want and are viable for the future, for the sustainability of our business. So we partnered with a few research companies, and we looked inward, and we came up with our core target, or our customer target mindset, as that we call it. And it's across demographic. I mean, it's beyond demographics, because we actually have a lot of different businesses that we sell in, and they all have different demographics that they target. So we wanted this core target market to be a mindset. And so we, after a lot of research, we came up with something that we call the family investor. And it's a customer that prioritizes family above all else. And it's our role to give them the financial freedom and the flexibility to enjoy time with their family, so they don't have to be worried about the day-to-day finances and their day-to-day things that they have to worry about on any given time frame.
Yeah, and now Louis, are you with us now? Yeah.
I think so. Can you hear me?
Great, hear your voice. I know targeting, you had a whole new branding campaign, and targeting, again, finding that audience was very important to you. Tell us about that.
Yes, we are a community bank, small bank, compared with the biggest incumbent like Goldman Sachs, for example. And we need to be very, very strategic and innovative in the way that we approach our markets. We Amerant is mainly in Florida and Texas, so our market is very small. And the way how we approach our marketing is trying to use all the tools that we have available, especially in relation with technology. We started to build our team of data scientists that can help us to dig deeper in the data that we have, also with the marketing intelligence, so we can be more focused in the way how we approach the market. And also, as part of the branding, the new branding, we started with a new approach to the community, which is what we call high touch and relationship. So we started a project to change our banking centers, trying to be to present our services in a more innovative way for our customers, and trying to be more technology, digital tools to present the service and the experience for the customer to be more interesting.
Well, and so in terms of reaching this audience, how did you, and what was your media plan like? How did you initially start out, and then how did that evolve in terms of what you were finding out?
Yeah, that's very important, because we used to be a very traditional financial institution using the traditional media. With the branding that was done in 2019, we changed our brand in April 2019. At the beginning, we decided to go with a campaign that was 50% traditional media, like newspaper, billboards, etc., and also started to enter in this new world of the digital world. So we started to use other type of media like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, that we were using, but are not at a bigger scale. And that produces really very interesting results, because the first phase of the branding campaign that was from April 2019 until the end of 2019, we got a lot of new traffic in our website. We didn't have KPIs, since that was mainly, as I mentioned, traditional, but we got some new KPIs based on the KPIs that the industry have. For example, just to give you an idea, in terms of display in Google, we have 50% of viewability. In terms of video, we have a CV rate of 60%. In terms of Facebook and Instagram, we have all recall of 4.6%. So those were KPIs that for us were very important, because that was our first entrance in the digital world. After December, with the COVID situation, we decided to continue our branding awareness campaign during this semester. And the main change that we did is that we decided to go full digital, 100% digital. So for this semester, we didn't do any traditional campaigns. Our media plan changed it totally to digital, because we really believe that that's how we can compete with not only with our other regional and community competitors, but also with the national brands like Goldman Sachs, that, as you can see, they have a lot of power.
Yeah, and now, Joe, since we started talking about COVID, obviously you guys were very much reliant on sports and sporting events, and you partnered, had a lot of partnerships there. How did COVID affect you guys, and then how did you adapt and to all of that?
Yeah, and I will say, just because as we're talking about trust, one of our key strategies for even building trust as a relatively unknown brand for the size of our company was to really utilize partnerships from our sports teams. And that's why it was a big part of our media plan. So we decided to partner in 4 key markets. They all had Major League Baseball teams. And as you guys all know, this year we had a lot of ups and downs with how Major League Baseball was handling the quarantine. And also before that, we also are sponsors of the Houston Astros. So we had complications with cheating scandals and things like that. And how we were trying to deal with that and combat that was a pretty big deal from our media plan. So COVID-19 essentially impacted every facet of our media plan. We had built new commercials in January, and we were really excited to share them at the launch of the Major League Baseball season. And with the uncertainty of the market, we decided to pull back a lot of our advertising until we knew a little bit more of what was going to happen with baseball. And really, from a fiscally conservative company, we wanted to make sure we were using money appropriately to help support business activities. So our marketing and advertising budget was cut pretty dramatically this year. And so we've had to be able to try to pivot. Obviously, from March until June, almost July, when baseball started, we didn't want to not do anything. So some of the things we had to pivot to were how can we still be present? How can we have a presence without spending a ton of money? And so we dipped our toe into some user-generated content, leveraging some of our partnerships with the Minnesota Twins, as we're located in Minnesota, and the Twins happen to be a very big partner of ours, as well as the Minnesota Wild, and helping share our content that way. And one of the biggest lessons that we learned too is our employees were huge advocates of our brand on social media. They were a big proponent of sharing our content. We also partnered with our own foundation to make this more than just share your stories, but we really wanted to tie it to give us the message of our user-generated content was how are you adapting to your new normal and a life balance remix that the COVID-19 pandemic is presenting itself. And so we were able to leverage our foundation to donate money for each of the shares. And while the results itself weren't explosive, it did for us show that there are other ways that we can engage audiences that aren't just spending money in a big way with Major League Sports.
Well, and getting back to the user-generated content, is that something that you feel like you'll keep doing moving forward? Because it is a more efficient way in terms of dollars. It's very, very minimal amount of investment. So is that something that you'll continue doing as we hopefully get into events and everything gets back to all normal?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think we want to reframe it and try to figure out the best way to get engagement. And I think it's about the content that we produce. We already did another campaign after that, following one of our associate resource groups. Our Pride Associate Resource Group did something in June that helped build some momentum in that way. So I think the answer is unequivocally yes. We want to figure out more ways to keep user-generated content and having people speak on behalf of our brand, not just our own branding messages as well.
Yeah, and Lutz, let's go to you now. As far as you talked a little bit about how you went strictly digital during COVID, were you looking for more efficient ways of moving forward? Did you drop your budget as well? Tell me a little bit about that. What that impact was like.
Yes, I think that like any other financial institution, we have to due to the COVID to review our marketing budget and the budget of the company in general, and to make all the necessary adjustments. So in that way, again, as I mentioned before, we have to become very creative in what we were saying, how we were saying, and where we were saying what we want to speak to our audience. So basically, the main changes that we have were we decided to stop some of the campaigns related to offerings of products and services and trying to be more sensitive with our audience. We focus on what the market was demanding at the moment. As you know, the CARES Act was one of the main or the most important topics during COVID. So like most of the financial institutions, we focus on the P and the CARES Act, trying to convey a message that was important for our audience. We use mainly our website as one of the main places where people can go for information, try to have all the information there for them. We got to measure the traffic. The traffic had a significant increase in terms of those particular sections in our website related to COVID and to the CARES Act. And in the other side, the other part of the strategy was more in the line of business. we try to be more trying to generate that trust in our customers. No matter that at the social distancing, they found a way to, through appointments, bank appointments, more restricted, but also through phone appointments to try to approach our different customers. And the third strategy was to be more active in the social network, like LinkedIn, as I mentioned, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, so we can have a message for our customer that they can count on us, that we are here for them. So I think that was the main change that we had during COVID.
Yeah, and it sounds like, I mean, with both of you guys, obviously messaging is such a huge part of what you're doing. I mean, that's really a big part of, you know, as we keep saying, there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of other financial institutions that consumers can go to. They're all looking for sometimes, you know, that cool technology and all of that. But really what it comes down to is that message and who you are. So Joe, going back to you, you talked a little bit about how you sort of had to reach that consumer. Dive deeper a little bit into that. Like, what did you do to really make yourself stand out in that sense so you could really connect with your customers?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is not trying to reach them everywhere. We tried to be very specific with where we could try to reach them and with messaging that would be applicable to them. So one of the reasons we are big partners with Major League Baseball is because it's an accessibility for families. It's a sport that families go to and they watch together. And so we wanted to be in stadium, but we also wanted to target people digitally. So people in stadium, we geo-targeted that area and deliver them ads that way, and tried to make the messaging that we have. Our advertising campaign is really, it's focused on making every moment count. And that was a green space when we entered it in 2018 of taking the time now to spend with your family and you know, leaving the financial worries back to us, and we can take care of that for you. We are worried, or our goal here is to drive awareness. We want to just get people into the funnel, because at the end of the day, we're not getting them into consideration to purchase a product at this time. They have to do that through a third party. So this is just, we want to put a little nugget in the back of their brain that they have seen us in a place that is memorable. And so Major League Baseball has helped us with that. We have outfield signs. We have also signs on the ice with the Minnesota Wild. We're also partners with Big Ten schools like the University of Minnesota. And so we're in a lot of places, which helps us. But then we also follow that up with little reminders too. So it's like a 360 approach. So whether they're browsing online or they're on their social channels or they're in stadium and they get served an ad, we're in places that kind of helps us 360 approach to make sure that they don't forget about us once they hear about us too.
Well, and does that help you? Because the million-dollar question is, how are we planning in the future? How are we planning for just the fall? Never mind, you know, into next year.
Yeah.
Is the approach, is that really the attitude you guys continue doing?
Yeah, and
the walls and the digital, you know, you may not have a lot of that.
Yeah, it has to be. And because there's so much uncertainty, and we've been able to leverage a lot of the existing partnerships that we've had, but yeah, pull any one lever out and the plan isn't always the same. So it's being able to stack one or the other up and being able to adapt. And I think that's a very good exercise that we have learned as well, as you can't put all your eggs in even an experiential basket, because we're like, oh, this is great. People aren't going to not go to baseball games. And, you know, it turns out that can happen. And we got to have other plans to make sure that we don't just have a full stop and we can be in front of people, because a full stop would be pretty devastating for a brand that's still relatively young in the marketplace.
Yeah. And Louis, you talked about really wanting to reach your customers and what their needs are. And that's what your advantage is. And tell me more about that, more initiatives that you might be doing, or how you're getting the word out there that this is who you are to your consumers.
Yes, we try to be more targeted, as I mentioned before. For example, in our digital campaign, we started to try to do geo-targeting around the banking centers that we have. So we are more focused in those local markets to be closer to our community. The thing that we tried to do was like 3-5 miles around the banking centers. We also tried to bring the message that we are not competing in this environment with almost 0% in interest rate. It's very hard to compete, and the net interest margin is very low. So you have to innovate on how you're going to compete, and the best way to compete is creating trust that your service is something that has value for the customer. And that's the message that we are trying to convey, that we have efficiencies, that we can create customer experience that are important for our audience, and giving that message and then walking our talk, because it's not only about what you offer, it's also what they get. So we try also to, in our backend, to improve our processes. So those customer experiences that we are offering to our audience, when they try to get those type of products and services, we really are walking our talk. As I said, for example, just to give you an idea, we have one product that is one of our flagship products right now, which is loan for small businesses, and especially in this season that they need work capital, and they need probably equipment, they need those small businesses. We are not offering them anything related to interest. We are offering them what we call the fast track. You can apply, and in 24 hours, you're going to have a response in regards to your application. You're going to have an approval. So it's about efficiency, it's about agility, but it's about trust also, because if we cannot deliver in 24 hours that response for that application, so that's going to spread out really fast. And you know that the bad news are the ones that are spread out faster than the good news. So it can take us to a lot of effort to get a customer, but probably if we not walk our talk, it's going to be really easy just not to deliver that trust that we want.
Right. And before, I do want to make sure to remind everyone that we want to open it up to questions to these guys. And just quickly, because I'm running long and I want to give other people an opportunity to talk to you, but just following up with that, Joe, as far as keeping those customers, like, Louis sort of talked about that customer base that you have, how are you reinforcing that moving forward as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously once they get into our system, it kind of goes through a different little process, right? We have a little bit more customer care. We have a little bit more insight as to who they are. And I think what our brand focus and some of the things that we've been learning to do is to try to figure out how do we get them into the pipeline to get to their advisor, to then get to us, because once they're in our system, a lot of our retention, I mean, we have really great retention on a lot of our different business lines, anywhere between 90 and 98%, depending on the business line. So our main problem that we were trying to solve is we got to keep building that pipeline, especially in this new world where there's new ways to connect with people. There's new products out there. There's new companies that make it easy and convenient to do business with. We don't want to be the old dinosaur that after 140 years waves the white flag and says we have to go away. And so this is one of those things where change is really hard, especially in the financial services category, because if it had been working, it's not to say it wouldn't be, but I would say especially now, it's more imperative that the company changes, that how we market and target people changes. And that's been something that we've had to take on too as the brand team. We're a 2-year-old team. This is not a tried and true function here. So really building it from scratch has been something that we've been diving into from all fronts, from experiential marketing, from digital marketing, from social marketing. There's just a lot of new entities to tackle when you haven't had a consumer facing brand before. So that's something that we're hitting the ground running, and I think we're making good progress so far. And that's one of the things that I will just leave this group with as well, is that we had a big ambitious goal to try to reach the national audience. And what we tried to do is make that a smaller goal and try to say, what can we do in 4 key markets? Because that will at least test our approach to say we're spending money efficiently and wisely. And we can kind of use it as a stage gate approach to say, look, we have earned our keep here. Let's see if we can keep building from that. So that has been a key takeaway for us as we're relatively new on this journey.
Sounds good. Well, let's bring Steve out here to get any questions that we might have.
Yeah, Louise and Joe, we have a couple of questions about measurement, so let me sort of bunch them together and restate them. You know, one of the things that we heard from a lot of brands over the last 6 months especially is that consumer attitudes were changing in real time on the fly, and a lot of people were surprised by responses that people had along the way. I'm curious, what measures did you guys put in place to measure your consumers' attitudes as it was changing and get feedback from them? And in particular, what surprised you from that feedback? What did you learn, or what did you not see coming from your consumers?
Well, if I can take that, just to start with, because we have the same challenges that Joe mentioned in regards to being relevant to the market and to compete with those new tools that we have. But especially in regards to your question, Steve, our main measure as of today is the Net Promoter Score. I don't know if can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, we got you. You froze
yes,
for a second, but we can hear you.
Yeah, you were like frozen. So our main measure currently is the Net Promoter Score. And one of the biggest changes that we did in the past 2 years, our customer experience department has been doing an outstanding work trying to measure the engagement. And that's the measure. I mean, we can have a lot of, discussion about the Net Promoter Score, but that's the main KPI that we are using. We have overall Net Promoter Score for customer service, and then for line of business, for products. So what we are trying to do is to survey our customers so we can have the voice of the customer as one of the KPIs, and take in consideration not only the KPI itself, but also all the comments that we receive, so we can improve in the front line and also in the back office to, as I mentioned, to produce those customer experience that the market is expecting.
For us, we actually have a few different key metrics that we track. We track awareness and familiarity, and we have a research partner that helps us do that across the country. And we do that from a national level, but also in our 4 key markets that we have. We also use Nielsen to test our creative elements to see how they're playing with. And then we also have our own consumer mindset panel. So as I mentioned, we really have this customer mindset that we've been focusing on. And so as we make big decisions, or as we look at products, or as we look at advertisements, we have this panel of this group of people that we can, of our core target market, or a representation of that we can bounce these ideas off of, that give us instant feedback on that. And as far as anything that's surprising, I think it's just been super helpful to get feedback from them. I think, not to say I would have not thought that, but I didn't realize how impactful it would be to hear directly from the people that we're trying to message as well. So if that's at all possible, I think that would be a recommendation to continue to do.
Did you have to change the cadence of your use of that panel during this? I mean, did you have to sort of change the way you were checking in with them so that you were getting reports on a different cadence?
Yeah, we usually, I mean, we generally check in with them around monthly, but it is a kind of a typing tool test that we can get new people in and out. And as we have questions, we can ask them that. So 100% our response to COVID-19 has been one of the things that we have checked in with and since then to a few times, just to get an idea of how they're doing and what types of messages are resonating them.
Okay. With them. Well, thanks guys. I know we have to move on.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for your help.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And stay safe. And hopefully next time we'll be, doing all this live.
We'll be doing this live.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Sure. As a blessing. Bye.
All